Am I the butthole for telling my wife it was a mistake to stay at a baby shower? So my wife, 26 female, and I, 28 male, have been married for a year and began trying to conceive in September. No luck so far, but the doctor did say at our first appointment that it typically takes close to a year for most couples to conceive. She's been telling people that she's infertile, which isn't true. Doctor said she isn't. My wife and I went to my work Christmas party in mid-December, where my wife met my coworker's wife, let's call her Mary, and they took a liking to each other. Mary was pregnant and invited my wife to her baby shower, which was yesterday, and my wife sounded excited to go. I asked her when we were alone if she thinks she'll be fine. I know my wife and I know what typically bothers her. I knew she wouldn't bask in happiness over someone else's pregnancy, so I urged her to think it through. She said she's fine and she was excited, so she went. The baby shower was yesterday. About 40 minutes in, she calls me and asks me to come. I was at a cafe nearby because I knew she wouldn't stay long. I find her at the entrance of the house crying and a bunch of women consoling her. When she saw me, she came to me and pulled me to the garden to talk. She said she was dancing and looked at Mary's pregnant belly and couldn't take it anymore, started crying and ran out. All of Mary's friends followed her out to console her. I consoled her myself, and said, "Okay, let's go, babe. Where do you want to go? We can go for a drive so you can feel better." She looked at me weird and asked why she would leave. I asked why she would stay. She said she feels better now and can go have a good time. I sighed and said, "Babe, you know that's not going to happen. And I doubt the attention will be on Mary after this, and that's not great. It's her baby shower and she deserves to be celebrated. I can't see how people are going to shift their focus from consoling you to celebrating her if you're still there." She rolled her eyes at me and said she was going back in and that I could leave. 3 hours later, the party was nearing its end, so I go back to pick her up. My coworker and I stepped into the house and lo and behold, everyone is sitting in a circle with my wife being the center of attention. Coworker looked for his wife and she wasn't there at all. He called her and she said she had left ages ago. My wife and I entered the car and I first asked her how she was feeling and we spoke about it for a few minutes. I then asked her what happened and why Mary left. She said, "Oh crap, Mary. I forgot to say bye to her. I told her Mary left ages ago." I then said, "I know you're going through a hard time, but why on earth would you and her friends do this? If they consoled you for a few minutes that's fine, but the entire party? We really should have left earlier." She looked at me so offended and said, "Are you Mary's husband or mine?" We stared at each other for a while and just drove home in silence. I told her I want to talk to her this morning to sort things out, but she ignored me and left the house. Not the butthole. Your wife turned someone else's celebration into her own pity party, to be point that the guest of honor left her own shower, and doesn't realize she did anything wrong? Do you really want to have a child with a woman like that? I don't really know where to start with this. Your wife sounds like a lot. You've only been trying to conceive since September. That's hardly any time at all. It's very unusual to get pregnant straight away. There is no evidence there's an issue, yet she's acting like she's having fertility issues, which is very attention-seeking behavior and pretty insensitive to people with real problems. Then she meets this woman just a few weeks ago, goes to her baby shower and completely ruins it and makes it all about herself. That's really horrible. Not the butthole for telling her that she shouldn't have stayed, you're completely right, but you're a little bit the butthole for enabling your wife's unhinged behavior. Am I the butthole for wanting to talk to my daughter's new teacher about being nicer to the kids? My daughter's preschool hired a new teacher/teacher's aide, early 20s F, earlier this year. My daughter adores this teacher and my wife, who is also a teacher, speaks highly of her. We just had a baby, so I've been taking care of drop-off and pick-up lately, and I've been able to form my own opinion of this teacher. In my opinion, she messes with the kids too much. These are all examples that I've seen. For Christmas we got every teacher a box of chocolates from a small shop near the school. The shop wrapped the boxes and they have the name of the shop on the wrapping paper. Everyone knows what it is by looking at it. My daughter ran in yelling, "We got you chocolate," and the teacher said, "Abby." It was supposed to be a surprise. She still hugged my daughter and thanked her, but I felt that the remark was unnecessary. Another time, I picked my daughter up towards the end of snack time. My daughter came up to the teacher and asked for more snack. Teacher said, "Abby, you already ate all of our snacks. If I give you more, we won't have anything to eat tomorrow. You're about to go home and have dinner anyways." In my opinion, the first two sentences were very unnecessary. This last one just happened on Friday. Pickup ends at 4:30 and I'm guessing the teacher leaves at 4:45. I called the school and said that I was going to be late for pickup, and I got there at around 4:45. When I got there, my daughter was with a little boy, whose parents had been there for 20 minutes, but he was refusing to leave. My daughter was getting her stuff and I saw the teacher give the boy a spray bottle, a rag, and gloves and say, "Jack, if you want to stay, you're gonna have to clean the tables then vacuum. I have to go home and your mom can't wait forever." She went to the closet, got her stuff, and started walking to the door. His mom also started to walk away. The little boy dropped the cleaning supplies, started crying, and ran for his mom when the teacher made it to the door and his mom was out of sight. In my opinion, there had to have been a better way to get him to go than scaring the crap out of him. I get that she's joking, but these kids are 3 and 4 and don't get it. My daughter has never admitted to this teacher making her upset, but I still don't like how she talks to my daughter or the other kids. My wife and I were talking about the school and I said that I wanted to talk to the teacher about being nicer to my daughter and the other kids. My wife rolled her eyes at me and said that I'm starting to sound like a certain parent at her school that she and the other teachers can't stand, and that if I insist that everyone coddles our daughter then she's going to have a hard time when she's older. Am I the soul for not liking the teacher and wanting her to be nicer? You're the butthole. The teacher sounds perfectly nice and correcting children is part of her job. You're the butthole, you're making something out of nothing. You're making a big deal out of something kids can understand. Eat food today, no food tomorrow. You're close to dinner time. As far as the chocolate, that is overreaction. You give gifts, they're supposed to be a surprise. Relax. You are that parent every teacher hates. They have a hard enough job. I'd say you're the butthole, but you'd probably ask me to be nicer about it. Skeptical. Edit, thanks for all the comments and awards y'all. Made my day. Yes, you're the butthole. Get some thicker skin. Your wife likes the teacher. Your kid likes the teacher. If she were mean to your daughter would feel that. You're not doing your kid, or your wife, any favors, here. Am I the butthole for telling my half-sisters they need to seek help and leave my mom alone? I'm male, 19, and this is about my older half-sisters. My dad had them with a high school girlfriend but was never in their lives. He'd sleep with her a few times and just never be involved with the girls. She was a train wreck and he made a promise to her parents that he would take them if she got so bad they were suffering for it. But he never planned to keep the promise and he never told anyone about them, never supported them or anything. So he married my mom and she had no idea. Then when she was pregnant with me, the grandparents showed up and said the girls were not being taken care of and he needed to step up and be their dad. My mom was home on her own and was in so much shock. The girls were 6 and 8 at the time, and were 7 and 9 by the time I was born, I think. Dad got home after several hours and once he realized mom wasn't handling it like some saint, he was trying to talk her into them raising them together. She didn't want to stay with a liar or raise someone else's kids, so she left him and they divorced when I was 4 months old. Dear old dad didn't want them either and would allow them to fixate on my mom. He tried to pawn them off on her many times. He'd ask in front of me for her to take them. He'd try to get her co-parenting the 3 of us instead of just me. Mom always kept firm and tried to keep that stuff away from me, but dad never did. The girls spent years wanting mom to be their mom. They were in their teens and trying to use me to get mom to adopt them and stuff of that nature. It was sad. It was awkward as hell for me. The pressure was a lot. I hated dad, and when I was 14 I stopped seeing him, and by extension the girls, who still lived with him. Then a couple of years ago they made contact with me and tried to have a relationship again. But they were still so fixated on mom and it made me uncomfortable, so I always tried to avoid heavy topics with them. A couple of weeks ago while I was at mom's, they showed up and started yelling at mom and telling her that she was a piece of crap and she became their mom the moment she married dad and should have been there for them. They told her she owed them as much as she owed me and how could she not love them. I stepped in and told them they needed to leave and that mom was not their mom and they needed to accept that. It took some time, but they left after I told them they needed to seek help to get over their fixation on mom and learn to accept that she's not their mom. I told them they need to stay away from mom, leave her alone, and work on themselves. They texted me after that I was in butthole just like her and they deserve so much better. Am I the butthole? ETA, to answer some of the questions that keep coming up. My mom did not live with them. She was gone once she found out about the lies and she was not part of their lives in any kind of parental or familial capacity, even at the start. She left dad and moved out. No trying to make it work. Their mom was not involved. She was not a good mother, she didn't want them either, and the grandparents did not stay in their lives either. The only butthole here is your father, who fricked those girls up so bad that 2 girls in their 20s are convinced that their dad's second wife should act and love them like a mother. I feel sorry for them, to be honest. Not the butthole. Not the butthole. She is not their parent and had no desire to parent them. Your father is the though for what he did to those girls. They have a mom, and it's not yours. Not the butthole. Your dad, however, is a dumpster of a human being. This solely is his fault. You and your mom were the unfortunate targets in a situation of his doing. Your half-sisters are hurting but their anger is misplaced. Not the butthole. But this is such a crafty situation to navigate. Your father is definitely He played such a major role in allowing his daughters to form such an inappropriate bond with your mother. She made it clear from the beginning that she had no inclination to be their stepmother, yet he continued to let his daughters think otherwise. Am I the butthole for offering to help my wife with the dishes? My wife, 26 female, and I, 26 male, both work 4 days a week. I work 12-hour shifts and she works 8-hour shifts. She would work more, but our daughter, 1 female, needs to be picked up from daycare. I leave for work before they wake up and some days get home after our daughter has gone to bed. This week, our daughter's daycare provider was sick, so my wife took the week off of work to care for her. I worked an extra day to make up for her lost income, so it all worked out fine, or so I thought. She seemed stressed still, so I asked her what was wrong. She broke down, saying that she is struggling with balancing work, caring for our daughter throughout the week, and keeping our house clean/cooking/ etc. I responded calmly by saying that I can't miss work or reduce hours. We simply cannot afford it. She responded by saying she knows that, but it is overwhelming for her, and the house chores are piling up. I told her 90% of the problems with messiness could be solved if she picked up after herself. If she just put the used butter knives in the sink after she was done, and rinsed bottles/cookware/ etc. I will happily do the dishes when I get home from work. Hell, I'll even put them away after. But I do not want to play scavenger hunt and look around the house for things to wash. She did not respond to me after I said that other than a quiet okay before going to console our daughter who woke up early from her nap. She still seemed upset with me still, so I vented to my coworker about what happened. He says I was being in butthole because I didn't even listen to what she wanted. I feel like I was perfectly reasonable. Am I the butthole? You're not the butthole for offering to help with the dishes, but you're the butthole for telling her that 90% of the problems with messiness could be solved if she picked up after herself. Like what were you thinking? ETA, your title was misleading. Either you did that on purpose in a weak attempt to garner sympathy, or you were actually that dense. I suspect it's the former. You're the butthole. You took from that whole thing the dishes? Clearly it's about a lot more than a damn butter knife in the wrong place. How 90% of her problems are her own fault is stupid lol. I bet 99% that she carries the entire mental load of the household. And his baby brain. On days that you work I imagine she is the one that is basically the sole parent, and probably on days that you don't work she does the lion's share. You're the butthole. So your wife is overwhelmed and exhausted with a 1-year-old and you say it would all be okay if she just picked up after herself. Are you kidding me? You're the butthole. Your wife works almost full-time and does all the childcare during her non-working hours multiple times a week, and your response to her feeling overwhelmed is to lecture her about tidying up as she goes? Am I the butthole for telling people that my girlfriend shat herself during our son's birth? Last night there was a dinner party at my girlfriend's sister's, Lana, house to celebrate the recent birth of their child with some of her family and friends. Afterwards we were outside having some drinks and discussing the birth itself. Lana was talking about how embarrassed she was afterwards because she'd shat herself during and how she wanted to just bury her head in the sand. Only 3 women in the group have had kids, Lana, one of her friends and my girlfriend. The rest hadn't and seemed quite shocked that Lana shat herself, including my girlfriend. To be fair, they weren't laughing directly at her in an intentionally malicious way but were still laughing in a "you really did that?" type of way. My girlfriend chimed in saying that she would have been surprised if Lana wasn't embarrassed after crapping all over herself, then started dramatizing the whole thing, jokingly as if it were a major deal. It was all banter, but to cover all corners I added that it's actually common to crap yourself while giving birth. With all the pushing and pressure being exerted on your stomach, it's frankly only natural and a very common occurrence, so she shouldn't be bothered. The friend who has a child agreed with me, but one cousin was like, yeah right, and so I doubled down and used my girlfriend as an example. She also pooped during the birth. She seemingly didn't realize and we never spoke about it because it literally didn't matter to anyone. I didn't give a frick, the nurses didn't give a frick, the doctor absolutely didn't give a frick. What matters is the baby came out, even if he came out with unexpected friends. My girlfriend argued with me for a bit, insisting that she didn't, but stopped when I told her she could ask her mother. She was also there. From then onward she completely ignored me. Every time I spoke to her she would simply just stare at me, then continue talking to someone else. This made things a bit tense since everyone noticed, so I told her that I'd wait in the car and excused myself. She followed about 30 minutes later, and as soon as we got home she gave it to me. She thinks it was a dickhead move blasting the fact that she shat herself to everyone like that, and that it was really embarrassing and unnecessary. No one even cared, and I could tell it made Lana feel calmer, but I just let her get it out and didn't say anything. Things are still quite cold, and I just keep replaying this in my head, wondering if I'm the butthole. Am I the butthole? You're the butthole. Your girlfriend went through a very physically difficult experience and didn't remember all the details. That is not uncommon. Rather than talking about it in private, you brought it up in public knowing that your girlfriend would find it embarrassing, because she had literally just said that. In your head, I think you thought you were both being accurate and helping out Lana. The thing is, Lana chose to tell the story herself. You told a story about your girlfriend that she was unaware of and that you knew that would embarrass her. Being accurate was worth humiliating your girlfriend in public. I don't know how you could ever really make amends for intentionally embarrassing your girlfriend like this. Everybody sucks here. Mommy groups exist, and this is absolutely a topic of conversation in damn near every one I have ever seen. Yes, this can happen. It's no big deal. The priority is having a safe and healthy delivery. Type conversation. Your GF is an butthole for making fun of another woman's birth experience. You are not as much of an butthole for outing your GF about a part of her birth experience she didn't remember. The other women there are buttholes for talking smack about something they have no idea about. Not the butthole. Your girlfriend played a stupid game and won a stupid prize. You would be if she was supportive, but she was literally making fun of another woman over something that is indeed normal during pregnancy. Everybody sucks here, including some of your friends except Lana. It's not easy to give a judgment because a majority of women crap themselves during birth, and I can't even imagine anyone feeling weird about it or being shocked about it. You're pushing for forever. Of course you might not notice you have an array of gooey and arguably gross things coming out of you at certain points. Poop will fly under the radar a lot. Lana was talking about how embarrassed she was. She ended up feeling more put on the spotlight when other people butt in with their own opinions instead of just chatting with her about it. The friend group shouldn't have teased her about something she was embarrassed about. Those other women. They're either extremely ignorant to certain aspects of birth or so embarrassed by crapting, in a situation it's more normal to crap than to not, that they would rather throw her under the bus and make her feel alone in her shame. Over a literally normal occurrence that no normal person cares about. You shouldn't have thrown your wife under the bus in front of people. She obviously was embarrassed and clueless. But if I were you, I would have said everything except that part about her doing it, since she was obviously so appalled. However, once we're in the car on the way home, I'd be telling her she should know she did this too, so she can reflect a bit on how she made a woman feel about it. I secretly hope someone is also chatting with Lana, making sure she isn't feeling embarrassed about it, and see how she feels about how she was kinda put on blast like that if it's something she's insecure about. I feel for her in this situation. Am I the butthole for humiliating my friend in order to make a point? Hello Reddit, my friend group is divided on this and I was advised to make a post here. Here's some background information to the problem. I, 25 female, hosted dinner a few weeks ago at my place. Everyone was having fun and the topic of moving out and charging your adult children rent came up. I'm not American, and if I'm being honest, I didn't even know this was a common thing. I told my friends that in Brazil this would be looked down upon and that I didn't know a single person who paid rent to their parents. I have 3 grown sisters who live at home and no one pays a cent. I finished my speech saying that it's fine if they disagree with me, but I personally would never charge my children rent if I wasn't struggling. My friend Amy, 27 female, said that someone from a third world country wouldn't understand, and that my sisters shouldn't freeload. I told her it wasn't like that. My parents love to have them around and that it's common, if not expected, to live with your parents until you get married/find a long-time partner. Amy replied by saying that my culture is backwards. I tried to not get offended over her choice of words and said agree to disagree. Back to the present. I hosted again last night and told my friends that my older sister is engaged. Amy proceeds to ask if she's finally going to grow up now, or if mommy and daddy will pay rent for her elsewhere. I was sick of her little comments, not the only thing she said this past weeks, and said that no, my sister is buying her own condo with my brother-in-law, and that maybe she could do the same soon if her parents didn't charge her $1,000 plus utilities every month. This erupted into a fight and dinner was cut short. Some of my friends think I should apologize to Amy to keep peace, but I don't think I should. Am I in the wrong here? I don't understand how your friends are split about this. Not the butthole, clearly. Amy was being insulting and rude, and she's the one who owes an apology to you. Not the butthole. Frick her for her third world and backwards culture comments. She was acting racist to you. Don't entertain bigots. Amy replied by saying that my culture is backwards. She seems nice. Amy proceeds to ask if she's finally going to grow up now, or if mommy and daddy will pay rent for her elsewhere. She lived up to my expectations. No, you should absolutely not apologize to Amy, she is unpleasant at best in my book. Not the butthole. She called Brazil a third world country? What an idiot. Am I the butthole for asking my ex-sister-in-law to disclose and then share how much money she got from my grandmother in the will? I am going to try and keep this short, I keep going over the 3,000 character limit. Grandpa was an engineer with the biggest airplane manufacturer in the world. He also had several patents for navigation software. He and my grandma were loaded. When he died, my grandma used the money to control everyone. I didn't speak to my grandma for almost 10 years because of it. She also didn't approve of my lifestyle. My brother was married, but he was diagnosed with a very fast-moving cancer in 2019. Grandma died in November and didn't have a funeral. Last week I got a certified letter and in it all of her assets went to my former sister-in-law and her kids. As for me, it said for reasons known to me and discussed with my attorney, I leave my grandson $1,000. I've spoken with a lawyer and he said with the way it was worded, I could contest but it would cost a fortune, a lot of time, and I'd probably lose. I called my ex-sil and basically asked her how much she got. She said she was deeply offended by my call. That turned into a shouting match where I may have said something that sounded like I was demanding my half of the money. It makes me sick that a non-blood relative is getting that money. She hung up on me and apparently has blocked me. My mom called me only a few minutes later and said that I need to walk away and leave my ex-sil alone. I need that money. She doesn't and certainly doesn't need my half. I've had a miserable few years and I lost my brother. This money would be life-changing to me. My mom just called me again and wanted to make sure I wasn't going to bother my sil again. I said I was looking into my options and no way am I walking away from this. She said I've been a major dissatisfaction to her over the last years. Am I the butthole? Please be honest if you could leave that money alone because I can't and I don't know if that makes me an or not. You're the butthole that turned into a shouting match where I may have said something that sounded like I was demanding my half of the money. It makes me sick that a non-blood relative is getting that money. Quite frankly, I believe your sil was probably onto something. You're clearly an entitled butthole. I hope any legal attempts to get more from her estate are fruitless. Also, ex-sil is extremely misleading. She's your brother's widow, she didn't divorce him. You're a heartless butthole too. On a related note, your comment about your grandmother not approving of your lifestyle was also unnecessary, and very misleading. In a response, you explained that it was because she didn't like how you spent your time or approve of people you spent time with. In other words, the typical disapproval just about everyone experiences with their parents/grandparents growing up. You went no contact. You had every right to do so, just as your grandmother had the right to leave you out of it completely, which she didn't. What about your lifestyle did she not like? Update, you're the butthole. You're the butthole. Greater than when he died, my grandma used the money to control everyone. Hashtag and you keep letting IT control you. FFS, all you have to do is not care about it.